Every one of these guys has a specific function. This is everything that they do. Chromium. We all know chromium has glucose absorption thing. It's also in protein synthesis. It's also in fat metabolism. It's also in sugar metabolism, regulating sugar levels. Cobalt, anemia, part of vitamin B, copper. Look at all the things copper does. Incredible. There was one in here that I really liked because I was on my way, because I don't eat out of cans. But when I saw this one on tin, I got real excited. Gallium. Who would think that gallium is useful for something? But here it is, anti-tumor activity, brain chemical modulator, mineralization of newly formed bone, reduces bone loss, blocks aluminum absorption. You have a gallium deficiency, John. I think we ought to put you up there at the hospital and take a few pictures of you. Iodine, everybody pretty familiar with iodine. Everybody's real familiar with iron. Lithium, many people are familiar with that in terms of emotions and so forth and so on. Magnesium, we all know about it. Manganese, molybdenum. Molybdenum is kind of a newly discovered mineral by a lot of people that are using nutrition and so forth. Metalloenzyme, iron metabolism, antioxidant, metabolism of calcium, magnesium, and copper. It's a very important guy. Nickel. Nickel, if you look, when you get this, if you take a look at the acid and alkaline minerals and see how they stack up in terms of acidity and alkalinity and which directions they go, nickel is a very important player in metalloenzymes. Phosphorus. I think many of us understand phosphorus is an antagonist to bone. It's an antagonist to calcium. I had a patient that had some calcified kidney cysts, and I had had a full body scan done on her, and they found these calcified cysts in her kidneys as well as some gallstones. And I put her on phosphate liquid, and the cardiologist who owned the scanning center was a friend of mine. And she went back in for a test about a year or so later, and he called me and he said, he sounded worried. He said, this woman had calcified bone cysts in her kidney, and they're not there anymore. What happened? And he said, she said you were giving her this stuff and they're gone. He said, what was that you were giving her? I said, well, it was phosphoric acid. He said, phosphoric acid? He said, like what I clean my swimming pool with? And I said, no. This is food grade phosphoric acid. He said, well, I'm coming right over to your office right now. He did. He left his office. He came over. He said, I want to look at this stuff. I want to see what you did. And basically, she got rid of the calcification. She got rid of her calcified gallstones too, because she was taking quantities of that. But yet, it's going to, it doesn't care if it's working on bone calcification in your kidney or if it's working on a calcification in the gallstone. It's also working on a calcification in your bones. So you can't keep a patient on a long time. But I found that a very amazing thing. He said, I want to come over and see how you did that. And so anyway, potassium. Everybody knows regulates water, sodium balance, transports nutrition in and out of the cell, gets rid of waste material. It's a very alkaline mineral. Selenium. Selenium, if you have a patient who is taking any sort of thyroid medication, taking anything dealing with thyroid, if you don't link it with selenium, selenium helps all the thyroid material help every organ in the body. And you can reduce the amount of thyroid that the person needs basically by just adding selenium to it. Silicone, sodium, these are all guys. This was the one that I was trying to get to. I found it very interesting to see that deficiencies create symmetrical baldness. I think I'm working on symmetrical baldness, you tell me. Except this side here, I always sleep on my left side, so I grind off some of that here, so I don't have...
I'm ahead of you.
Can you show symmetrical baldness, John? No. But I thought that was interesting because I thought tin wasn't necessarily good for you. I didn't know tin was an essential mineral. But apparently it is if you've got a symmetrical baldness problem. But in any event, sulfur. Sulfur is a metalloenzyme with iron. So it combines with iron. It's really an antagonist to aluminum. which is pretty handy, but a lot of people that have, mercury, a lot of people that have mercury problems, you don't want to load them up with a bunch of sulfur because there's a fine balance there. But you can actually balance out that sulfur reaction by fixing the other mineral balances in the body. So there's a lot of things that we get over-consumed about fixing, when in actual fact, if we had a very base product to begin with, we wouldn't have that problem to begin with in trying to fix an abnormal sulfur problem, where if we fixed it with a good balance of other things. Vanadium, zinc. Zinc is huge in the number of metalloenzymes. So the bottom line is you can't really do anything in the body. These are organs and systems. And to avoid running out of time, I basically want to run through some of those as well, but every organ of the body requires minerals for health. That's a simple statement. No one here would deny that's true. But I hope that what you go away with today is the magnitude of how important it is. In other words, oh yeah, minerals are important for the organs, but to recognize the organs, when we start going through the brain, chloride, lithium, sodium, potassium, manganese, boron, copper, chromium, cobalt, phosphorus, sulfur, gallium, and I probably left out a few as well. Digestion, look at the list. So every system, organ system in the body, muscular skeletal system, what it needs. We wouldn't have an osteoporosis problem if we were getting appropriate minerals. Endocrine system. How many people come into our office with whacked out endocrine problems? They're wired, they're tired, they're what I call, they have spastic endocrinology. If you do a symptom survey on them, I'm thinking about standard process, what you see is you see hypoadrenia, hypothyroid, hyperpituitary. Well, hyperpituitary, what's that mean in terms of hypoadrenia? It's beating a tired horse, is what it is. They are cannibalizing their body organ systems in an effort to make energy, because they are failing to be able to make real usable energy because they don't have the minerals to do it. They don't have the food to do it. They're eating dead food, so they can't make any energy. So what are they doing? The pituitary is saying, go, 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 go. And then the hypoadrenia, hypothyroid, hypo, and then what do you get? You get the reverse of that, hyper. Because the body's, the scale is going like this, back and forth and back and forth. And the answer to it is mineralization. Liver function, what it needs organ-wise. Emotion. And the list is probably 10 times longer than that. I just happen to put the big guys on there. This is what comes out of the ocean. This is what John's digging up in the north part of the lake. These are starting with the highest to the lowest. These are the elements that the body needs, because when we came out of the ocean, what happened was we started having an inability to have the minerals that we need. I eat a lot of seaweed, and I've started eating a lot of seaweed since the nuclear plants have been blowing up in Japan, and very unfortunate for that country there, what they've experienced. But I have another little muscle test here, and I was checking people's thyroid when they said this radiation thing was happening, and I was finding thyroid wasn't checking. Then I got the smart idea, let's take EMF together, let's take the radiation point together with the thyroid point, bam, there they were. These people, I found it about a week before they said it was actually going to hit here. I started finding people were having problems with it at that point. So I sent out a thing to all my patients on what they should be doing, and I said the safest thing right now is don't be doing the potassium iodide. That's going to throw things out of balance. What you want to do is start eating seaweed. In the hospital that was close to where the bomb was dropped during the Second World War, those people didn't have any radiation problem because they were eating tons and tons of macrobiotic foods, seaweeds, and I just make big seaweed salad, and everything I eat, I'm putting seaweed on it. And it's seaweed that Didn't come out yesterday. It's seaweed that's been dried that I've gotten from clean sources a while back. But I would recommend that everybody be eating seaweed, but not eating seaweed that's coming our way right now, unfortunately. So here's the antagonism of this. You can see how every one of these guys is in some sort of a play with another guy. So if you can see some that are balanced, like iron and copper are balanced, but then iron is pulling manganese. Iron and magnesium are balanced, but iron is in relationship to phosphorus down here having a problem. Every one of these guys becomes important. It's not a really great slide. It's copied out of another book that I wrote. But you can look at what the mineral is. Aluminum, it's in synergy with lithium, magnesium, copper, gold, and silver, and it's inhibited by phosphorus. Cobalt is in synergy with nickel, manganese, iodine, copper, but it's inhibited by iron and calcium. So consequently, you're going to give somebody a nutrient. What's it going to do? It has the potential of doing all of that. Now, I'm not talking you out of using the minerals that you use in your practice that you've gotten good results with. But what you need to start with before you ever go there is you need to start with a foundation minerals. And this kit, again, as I said, is $15. And it will take a person 25 days at 3 droppers a day to finish each and every one of these little bottles. And the label for it is actually on the back of it. It's an FDA compliant label. It is produced in a GMP compliant facility. The label has been gone over 1,000 times. Tricia, is that right? And checked with every official agency there is, to where nobody's going to come into your office and say, what did you say about that? This is the most basic thing there is. You're making no claims, other than you just saw every claim you could critically make for it, but we don't want to make any claims for any of the things that we use. I don't have any trouble with the FDA. I like the FDA. I created a product recently. I worked with the EPA, and the EPA and I have created a repellent product, a natural product for ticks, because I've seen all these Lyme cases, and saying, isn't anybody doing anything about DEET and some of the poisons that people are putting on themselves to avoid ticks? So I created a formulation. We just finished testing at University of California at Irvine, and my product basically gets basically a factor of 10-fold reduces the electronic field of the body, so you become indetectable to a tick, and it doesn't damage the body at all. We did a number of tests on it. The head of the lab, it was head of biophysics at Johns Hopkins for 25 years. He's the chairman of the National Institutes of Health chair on alternative medicine, and he's a full professor and head of a department at University of California at Irvine. We are so thrilled because we don't have to call it a repellent, and therefore the EPA doesn't have to do their good graces of blessing the product. So we're moving on to agricultural things as well, and so that's what I do with my spare time. But in any event, these products, let me give you a little lowdown on the acid and alkaline guys, and then we can ask some questions if you like. But we put these guys in clear bottles because we found the color, which you can't really see from there, is really interesting. It's kind of like a blue. And they're both, as I say, they're both kind of that same blue color, but they're only really 1 pH apart. And these guys, your price on these guys is $20, because there's a lot more technology required than these guys that are $15. And again, the recommended is whatever you want, but generally it's twice what you're paying for things. And the other thing is, you order one of these guys, you get 3 bottles, and the name of those other bottles are basically mineral formula.